Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So I watched the movie today, and what one of the elements I love so much is basically, not to use a sports term, but like the movie fakes you out because you think it's over. You're like, yay! Like I cried. I was like, oh my god, he did it. I'm so proud of him. And then like goes into the last act of the movie, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect. Like I truly like couldn't even see where the bar was. So I just was like, great, movie's over. This was so good. And then it got better because you got to see kind of what happens in the aftermath. And so for you as a writer and a director,
Hmm.
what was it about kind of this story as a whole and telling both an inspirational story, but mixing it with like so many different layers of messages and like motifs for not only kids but adults watching this too?
Um, I think I like in writing this film, I drew a lot from my journey to make a film,
Mhm.
like I think, my version of this would be Jing can direct. You know what I'm saying? And a movie is made up and you can make things happen. Um, and a lot of times it's great in the moment when you watch it, but then when the movie's over and you look back at your own life, it's hard to pull those things that you saw in the film into your real life. And what I want to do with this is I wanted to create something that had that sort of like inspirational, you feel amazing, you love this character, but then they also go through some things that you have to face on the daily, and they really have to tackle those things, that self-doubt, those questions of like um feeling unseen, invisible, struggles that you have in your relationships that aren't ideal with your parents, for example, and really just sort of address those issues in a real way. And I think what happens is, as you're watching it, is you're like, wow, this is real. It's not just entertaining experience, which I think great movies do, and that's what I'm trying to do with this.
Yeah, and like it truly was just like one of those like I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, so I grew
Yeah.
up in an era of Disney movie which was like we had so many DComs, and I was just like they some were incredible and I love them still to this day, and then some you were like, yes, you can tell that this is a Disney movie meant for teenagers. I as an adult don't want to watch it again. This
Yeah.
is not one of those. This is like such a good movie that I think genuinely like adults are gonna watch and cry. Like I just cried like 3 times and didn't
Oh my
expect
god,
to.
that's amazing.
But it also comes, I think that emotion comes from all the interpersonal relationships that uh surround Chang's journey,
Uh-huh.
because he has so many friends rooting for him, and he kind of like, yeah, yes, he derails that, but they never stray that far from him. And then he has
Yeah.
his relationship with his mother, and you kind of see the breakdown of all of those throughout the movie. And so when you have kind of your central character and you're working with him, but all of those characters are equally as important, how do you kind of balance that throughout your script and making sure, like, because every character they interact with, you understand their motives, you understand who they are, but it can't be easy to make all of
Yeah.
those so rich and full.
Yeah. I mean, that took a lot of effort that I think we did a lot in all three stages of writing, as they say. There's the writing,
Mhm.
there's the shooting, and then there's the editing. Editing, we tweaked that a lot because I found that a lot of the dialogue wasn't as necessary once you got to the editing stage because the actors were so good that you could just get what their relationship was just by the way that they looked at each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes you would get more if you when you remove dialogue, like suddenly you look closer at their eyes and their body language and how they refer to each other and how they interact with each other. And so, it was a balancing act the whole way through. And I think the film does something where it sort of sets up an antagonist and it sets up Christy as this kind of like new ingredient that's going to change Chang's life. But ultimately, it's revealed that the mom is sort of like a central obstacle that Chang is facing and he needs to solve. And I always knew that going forward, that like, that's the most personal part of the story for me is, the relationship between the son and the mom, and how me understanding myself helped me deal with this key relationship that I wanted to be better, but I didn't know how to make better. Um, And so like I think I set up the film as sort of this classical, Disney coming of age story, but I wanted to bring all these other elements into it because that's the story of a lot of people and life. Not everyone has a Disney family, and so what do you do when you watch a Disney family and then you have to go back to your regular family? I think that like with this film, what I tried to show is that there's different kinds of quote unquote Disney families.
Yeah, and I do love not like the destruction of his hope, because it's not really, but it's like he has this dream he kind of mentions one time where he's like, oh, I think my parents will get bored and get back together. And like, while we
Yeah.
don't ever see it, I do like that they have that moment where him and his mom kind of like come to terms with where their life is now and how they kind of are going to function as a mother and son. And so in both the direction of that scene in particular, towards the end of the film, and kind of like making that arc with their entire relationship where it's, oh yeah, that's my mom, I gotta go, she can't know I'm still awake and I don't really want to talk to her, up until like them actually opening up and talking to one another. How did you kind of work on that with the actors and make it so like not moving, because that's a hard thing to just ask how you made it moving, but
Yeah.
like how did you kind of make sure like that arc worked throughout the entire film to give us that resolution in the end?
I mean, man, in a lot of ways, they've just brought it from personal experience. They just, I think that the relationship that's in the film, a lot of immigrant kids, especially, I mean, not just immigrant kids, but any kid that struggles a little bit with being seen or feeling connected with their parents can relate to the scenes in this film. And, knowing that maybe their parents are trying the hardest, but still feeling some type of way about it. And so for Bloom to uh, really understand that, he brought a lot of layers to every time we shot the two of them together. And with Marty, who played Chen, I mean, she was just so great because all that she needs is sort of a thing to focus on in the scene. And like, I think when you're a single mom and you're struggling to provide for your kid and you want your kid to do the best, but you don't necessarily have the time to watch him and mentor him in the ways that you want, everything becomes so practical. You know what I mean? And it's like, I got to get home, I got to cook, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to get ready for work tomorrow. And so Marty really focused on those details in everything. My son's wet, I got to dry him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But maybe you don't notice like how humiliated he feels, or, you know what I'm saying? You're just sort of
Yeah.
observing and you're not really sort of taking in you're just sort of reacting to the situation. You're not really taking in what's actually going on. And then when she finally sees all this that Chang has been trying to do, she really finally sees him and why dunking is important to him. She's like, wow, I've been missing this because I'm sort of stuck in my own rut of not moving on, and that's why I think I'm so glad you said it, because that's one of my favorite scenes of the film as
It's
well.
so
And like,
good.
yeah, and very powerful because it's like Chang inspired his mom. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, when she starts laughing in that scene, I genuinely was like, "Oh, this is like one of the best scenes I think in any of like the Disney like coming of age stories in general." But like, it was just so good hearing her laugh and kind of like have that moment of freedom in it. You
Yeah,
did mention Bloom, and I'm obsessed with him. He's so good in this movie.
yeah,
And I do love his relationship with Bo. Those
yeah.
two, like Bo is the MVP for me when he was like Michael Bay and just like furious. He had to
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not be Scorsese. I was like, love that kid. But with those two in particular, their friendship is very important, because even when they're kind of like angry, or even when Bo's kind of angry at him, they're still friends. It's not that teenage, I'm never talking to you again friendship.
Yeah.
That's him and Matt, not him and Bo. And so with those two, what was like kind of the importance in that element of it? Like those two never really having that big blowout fight where they don't want to talk to each other and it looks like the end of their friendship.
Um, I think Bo, I think Bo really understands Chang in a way
Mhm.
that Chang doesn't understand himself. In a lot of
Yeah.
ways, I think Bo may not look the part, but actually Bo is a really confident kid. He's a
Mhm.
really confident kid. He knows who he is, and he knows how to be who he is. And he wants Chang to he wants Chang to feel that, and I think that gives Bo maturity and confidence that his friend will figure it out, and patience, and that, and knowing himself allows him to be patient enough for Chang to figure out that what Chang, or how Chang should see himself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he knows that by being patient, um, it will help Chang, because I think what Chang did is not the best, and he's really embarrassed. And like in those moments when people sort of like harp on what you did wrong, it doesn't really help you grow. Sometimes it just makes you dig a deeper trench.
Yeah. And I do love that this movie, while it made me feel old when they were like, oh my God, she loves 90s classic rock. I was like, don't call it that. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
don't do that. Don't do that.
yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah,
listening to Creep. I was like, nah, don't do that
yeah,
to
yeah.
Creep.
That's not even that 90s. No, yeah.
I was like, don't do that to Creep. But I do love like how these kids, like they do feel like teenagers today, where I'd be like, man, yeah, that made me feel old, and I'm not that old. But like, I love kind of the dynamic between Jane and Christy, even though she calls it out in the beginning of this movie and she's like, this better not be about me. And it is, even though he says, oh no, it's not. But I do like her journey throughout the movie and kind of making it like she never really changes from who she is. She like lays it on the line in the beginning of that movie. And it's just kind of how those boys perceive her.
Yeah.
And so with working with a character like that, where she knows who she is and she doesn't kind of like need anyone to tell her anything about it, how much of that was like you and working with the actor and understanding like how that character is going to be portrayed versus like this is what was on page and you guys just ran with it?
Well, I always saw Christy as the only adult in this movie, including Chen,
Yeah.
including Matt's parents, uh,
Matt's parents.
I mean, I always saw her as someone who has been through a lot, and
Mhm.
is mature, and is confident, and sees Chang's potential and likes him, likes the pure part of him.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But is also wary that like he's also like a teenage boy. And but I can't say enough about Zoe Renee, who played Christy, because I think she
Mhm.
brings sort of I can't even describe it, but sort of like a deep, like, spiritual grounding. You know what I mean? I think when she talks, she sounds like a kid, but you just really want to listen. You really want to be better. And I think when Chang looks at her and just sees like, wow, like, this is someone that I can look up to, and who I really, really want to impress. It's just so easy when it's like someone like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Matt's parents, and I instantly was like, God, I hate those parents. I hated them so much throughout this. I was just like, shut up. Your kid's a bully the entire time. But this movie is very much just like it's a very emotional but fun watch. Like you want to root for all of these characters and have them figure out all of their problems. And I like that last moment of this movie, I was just like, "Yay." But for you, like now that it's coming out, what do you hope audiences take away when they see Chang Can Dunk?
Man, I mean, I'm so glad that you were saying that, like audience of any age can watch this. I really want like whole families to watch this, and for the parents to enjoy it as much as the kids. You know what I mean? I think that like the thing that I want audiences to take away most is to start something. I think the dunk represents maybe a little dream or a little goal that we all have and maybe are reticent to start.
Mhm.
And I know that every time I've had a feeling like that and I've started, irregardless if I succeed or not, it changes me in some amazing way, and it introduces me to new people, puts me in new situations, lets me know that my potential is much more than I expected. And I think that people watch this and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna start something. I'm gonna try to learn how to juggle. That would make me so happy. That would make me feel like this film really did something, you know? And I think if, I think the world would be a better place, frankly, if we all
Mhm.
didn't stop ourselves from trying.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it will. I'll cut this, but I do love that this movie is called Chang Can Dunk, and the entire time I was like, every time he dunked, I was shocked. I was just like, he did it, and I'm like, it's in the title, but my brain was just so excited for him
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it
I'm,
was
I'm glad you, I mean, the title has been something that I came up with early on, but
Mhm,
I've thought about multiple times and I've second guessed multiple times, but I'm like, you know what? It's a statement. It's a statement that
mhm.
he's trying to prove to himself. And and that's something that we all do. We all trying to prove something to ourselves. And in order to figure that out, if that's true or not, we have to go on some kind of journey, So and that's the message of the movie.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much for talking with me today, and
Thank you. This is an amazing conversation.
I do love this movie. It's so good. I can't wait for everyone to watch it.
Okay. Appreciate you.
Thank
By the
you.
way, the actor that plays Bo is
Mhm.
actually in the Broadway version of Sing Street.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's so
Oh, I
crazy that you have that poster. Yeah. I've never seen
I
it, so I
can't
don't know
wait
what
for it.
character he plays, but yeah, that actor is he's an amazing talent, and like I can't wait for the world to see. He's on this other Disney Plus show, American Born Chinese. He's the lead of
I
that.
cannot wait for American Born
Yeah,
Chinese.
yeah,
I'm so
that
excited.
he's killer. He's killer. So
Oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.